What happens to your blood sugar when you really fast? Now, I'm not just talking about time-restricted eating, but going on a 36-hour fast. Does it go up? Does it go down? Well, it can vary from individual to individual, but we'll see what it does to my blood sugar as I begin a 36-hour fast. Well, it is around 11:30 on a Sunday evening, and I guess you could say I have begun my 36-hour fast. I had dinner this evening around 6:45, something like that. I think I was pretty well finished by 7. And I do not plan to eat at all tomorrow, which is Monday, and then I'll have my next meal on Tuesday morning. That's the plan anyway, unless I change my mind. I've been enjoying this little baby, the Freestyle Libre continuous glucose monitor. I've got the sensor on my arm, and I've been testing myself like crazy and enjoying it and thinking, where have I been? I like these things a lot, but of course they are expensive, so I'm not going to be using them nonstop. But from time to time, I'm sure I will use them. So the rules of this fast are these. It's not that I will take nothing at all. I will drink water, and I'll have coffee twice tomorrow. I will have coffee, black coffee, no cream this time, no butter, no coconut oil, just black coffee tomorrow morning, and then I'll have it tomorrow late afternoon, maybe 4:30, something like that. And then I may have a little lemon juice later on in the evening, and I'll talk about that. So for right now, I'm going to test my glucose with my Freestyle Libre and just see where I am at this point, and we'll check it tomorrow. Now tomorrow is when I'm going to do hour by hour, so probably starting around 7. Usually I wake up somewhere between 6 and 7, so probably starting around 7 all through the day till I go to bed. Now the hour by hour thing doesn't count when I'm sleeping. I'm not about to get up every hour and test my glucose, so don't expect that. But during the day tomorrow, I will be testing it hour by hour to see where it goes. So let's give it a test right now. It's just amazing to me how fast and easy this is. Didn't have to take my shirt off. It says 97 right now. So we will see where it goes from there. And tomorrow we'll see if there's much of a dawn phenomenon that goes on when I wake up in the morning or when I test at 7. So I'll see you tomorrow, and we'll find out what happens during this fast. Well, it is Monday morning, and I've been doing this morning what I do every morning, and that is reading the Bible. On these fasting days, I like to not waste them and just do it for health. I do it for spiritual reasons as well. And so I tend to read the Bible a little more than I normally do. I always read the Bible every day, but I read it a little more, and I read it particularly in the life of Jesus Christ, my Savior. So I love to read about Jesus. Today I'm reading in the Gospel of Luke. I've been up since 6:22. It's around 7. So this is not a test as soon as you wake up kind of a measurement that I'll be doing, but it will be a morning test. And we'll see if there's any kind of dawn phenomenon going on. I was at 97 not too long before I went to bed last night. And let's just see what's going on today as we turn this thing on. And it comes on very quickly. And there we go. Wow, an 87. So you can't beat that. No evidence of dawn phenomenon at all with that. I went to bed with a 97. I wake up with an 87. So this is right around 7 o'clock in the morning. And I plan to test every hour on the hour throughout this day until I go to bed tonight. I haven't had anything to eat or drink yet, but I will have some coffee and probably around 9 and watch some news. So I will be reporting back. Well, it is around 9 o'clock. I have just finished using my elliptical trainer. I try to do that every day. I don't always succeed, but I try. So some people say things like that should lower your glucose. Honest truth is I've never found it to be so in my case. Sometimes it even goes up. So who knows? Who can really predict what things will do to different individuals? But it is 9 o'clock. At 8 o'clock I tested and it had drifted up slightly. I think it was at 93 from 87 before. Let's see what it is right now. Okay, it's at 91, so 91 is not too bad. And right now it's time to have some coffee, watch the news, and then I will have a Bible study with Benedicta probably around 10 or a little after. See ya a little bit later. It is 2 p.m. and since I last saw you, I've had numbers all pretty much hanging in the same group, same range. At 10 a.m. it was at 88, 11, 89, 12, noon, 90. 1 p.m. an hour ago it was at 86, so it seemed like it started to drop down a little bit. And let's just see where it is here at 2 p.m. 88. So the number, it's just kind of hanging in that same range and has been for hours. And that's good. I mean, these are good numbers. And I thought I would just talk with you for a moment about why would you do this kind of a fast? Why would anybody do it, right? None of us really like the idea of going without food for any length of time. We're not used to it. We don't like it. But you can get used to it, and you actually can like it if you're convinced it has benefit. Well, I could talk to you all day about the spiritual benefits of fasting and seeking the Lord and praying and reading the Bible, but that's not what this channel is about. If you want to know about that, go to my other channel, Dennis Pollock, where I teach the Bible. And if I was doing this strictly for spiritual reasons, I wouldn't even be sharing this on YouTube, because Jesus said, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing. Keep it secret. Go pray to your Father in the hidden place. So we're not supposed to be out there boasting, bragging about our fasting. But I'm sharing this with you, not for spiritual reasons, but for diabetic reasons and for health reasons. And that's why I broadcast it, to do you a favor. So that's a whole different story. I wanted to share a couple of things Dr. Jason Fung has written about fasting. He's sort of like the granddaddy of the fasting movement these days. This is from his book called The Diabetes Code. And he talks about intermittent fasting, and he says this: intermittent fasting prevents the development of insulin resistance by creating extended periods of low insulin that maintain the body's sensitivity to insulin. This is the key to reversing prediabetes and type 2 diabetes. So what he's saying is, when you have extended periods of low insulin, you're making your body more sensitive to insulin. Instead of being insulin insensitive or insulin resistant, you're becoming insulin sensitive. Right now in my body, and it's 2 p.m., I haven't eaten since last evening around 7, my insulin levels are very low because there's nothing for them to do. I'm not stuffing carbs in my face. I'm not eating donuts and pretzels and bagels and candy bars and drinking soda and fruit juice. I'm not even eating salads. I'm not eating anything. I had 1 cup of black coffee earlier this morning. So there's just nothing for the insulin to do, and therefore my body's smart enough to know to just drop those insulin levels down. My pancreas is saying, hey, I don't need to produce any insulin. There's nothing going on here. And when you have low insulin, it's the reverse of having high insulin. High insulin means you become insulin resistant. Low insulin, especially for an extended period of time, and that's what this kind of a fast is, will cause your body to become more sensitive to insulin. Well, it is 8 p.m. and I've been hanging in the 80s over the last several hours. At 4 p.m. I was at 86, 5, 87, 6 p.m. I was at 83. The last reading I did, the last measurement was at 7 p.m. It was at 81. So it's drifting downward, downward, downward. We'll see where it goes at this point. I did have a hiccup, however. Charlie had his first hiccup, and believe it or not, Mike the meter had to come to Charlie's rescue and help him. So if you wonder what that's about, I'll explain it further as I do the wrap-up toward the end of this video. But yeah, Charlie had a hiccup, and Mike had to come in and help. So let's see what Charlie has to say now. And he gives me another 81. 81. So 81 is a good number. It's on the low side. I know some of you folks have told me if I was ever in the 80s, I would be shaking and trembling and feeling terrible. Well, I don't experience that because I do get in the 80s, especially on these 36-hour fasts. I'm not going to tell you I'm in the 80s all the time because I'm not, and sometimes I can wake up in the morning and test myself at 90s or even over 100. So there, you know, as much as I've studied this and focus on it, I still can't guarantee a perfect number every time. But nevertheless, today things are going well. And so I wanted to share another thought about why fast according to Dr. Fung. And the reason I read Dr. Fung is I respect the man greatly. Don't know him personally, I've never talked to him. Anyway, Dr. Fung talks about why fasting is so powerful. And he says this, he starts talking about bariatric surgery, which is where you cut the stomach, or you staple the stomach, or you somehow pinch the stomach until it can only hold a little bit of food. Thereby you only eat a little bit because you're immediately stuffed after eating just a little bit. He says bariatric surgeries are effective. That is, they stop diabetes in its tracks, and you're no longer diabetic most of the time when you have that, because they create a sudden severe caloric restriction. In short terms, you're just not eating very much. You're just not taking in much food at all, not many carbs, not much fat, not much protein, just not much food, period. He goes on to say, with sudden severe caloric restriction, and that's of course what's happening when you fast, you're restricting suddenly basically all your calories, all your food. You're restricting. He says our body depletes liver glycogen stores in about 24 hours. Well, that would be my case. I haven't eaten since 7 p.m. last night. It's now 8 p.m. the next day. So it's been over 24 hours. So the glycogen has been depleted. He says once that is gone, we are forced to burn fat for energy. The body burns the fat from the liver and other organs preferentially because it is more accessible than the fat stored in the adipocytes. Removing the excess fat from the liver, like deflating an overinflated balloon, reverses insulin resistance. The dual defects of type 2 diabetes resolve. So, one of the most powerful aspects of doing fasts like these, and of course intermittent fasting all by itself, just having an 8-hour window of eating, which I don't even call fasting at all, but he does. But to just limit your window of eating, that's powerful all by itself. Just to go low carb, that's powerful all by itself. But to do these longer fasts, like a 36-hour fast, is like going nuclear on diabetes. And you are starting to burn away that fat from your liver, burn away that fat from your pancreas, and your body's going to go after that even ahead of any other fat. So it's a powerful thing, and it works. It brings good numbers, and you can see, in my case, it has done that for me. So it is 8 p.m. It's time for me to stop the work that I've been doing and spend some time in prayer. I always combine the health fasting with spiritual fasting, so I read the Bible a little more, I pray a little more. Then I'm going to go down and spend some time with Benedicta, and we're going to watch a little television before I go to bed. I will come back around 11 and wrap this up and see where my glucose is at 11 p.m. just before I would go to bed, or maybe 30, 45 minutes, an hour before I go to bed. So I'll do one more glucose measurement. Well, I'll do several more, but I'll come on camera one more time. So see you then. Well, it's around 11 p.m., so my full day of fasting is about to come to an end. The numbers have been slowly drifting downward still. At 6 p.m. I was at 83, 7 p.m. 81, 8, 81, 9, 78, 10, 72. 72 is kind of low. I'm a little concerned, not so much about my own health, my glucose is too low. I've done enough of these fasts that I pretty much know what to expect, and I never have any problems. I'm a little concerned about Charlie, whether he's being accurate or not. So let's find out, and if it's too low, I'm going to compare him with Mike and see how the two compare. Let's see what Charlie gives us first. All right, he gives me an 80. 80 is not bad. 80 is not too bad. So I think that's a pretty good number. That's a pretty reasonable number. Let me just give it give Mike a chance to weigh in. Somebody said, well, Mike's going to go on unemployment, and I just hate that about Mike. He's been such a good friend and a loyal helper that I just don't want to see Mike go on unemployment. And so, Mike, I just want you to know I'm still planning to use you quite a bit. Anyway, let's see what Mike has to say. Charlie says 80. And what does Mike say? Well, Mike says 85. So 5 points is not that big of a difference. It would be ideal if they were both perfectly matched and they were both perfectly accurate. Who knows who is more accurate, but 80 to 85, not too big of a deal to my thinking. So it's been a good day of fasting. I'll talk some more about it. I will see you tomorrow morning. I'll probably see you around 7. And then I'll have some concluding thoughts about my 36-hour fast. Well, it is Tuesday morning. It is around 7:15 or so it's been about 36 hours since my last meal. And I'm about ready to break my fast. You asked me, how do you feel after going so long without eating? Well, I don't feel too bad. I obviously could stand to eat, and I'll be happy to eat, so I'm not going to kid you and pretend like it doesn't matter that I'm such an Iron Man that I can go without food for 36 hours and it doesn't bother me at all. And yeah, there is a certain amount of hunger and desire for food, but it's not that big of a deal. So anyway, let's find out where we stand with the blood sugar. Turn on my little Charlie, the CGM, and see what it tells me. It gives me a 73. So 73 is a bit on the low side. And for some of you, if you were in the 70s, you'd be shaking, you'd be trembling, you'd be sweating, you'd feel like you're having a full-scale hypo. I don't feel that way at all. I know what a hypo is. I've had hypos. Now, keep in mind, I don't take insulin, I don't take any diabetic meds. So any hypos I've ever had, I never have taken insulin or diabetic meds. So any hypos I ever have are natural hypos created by my own pancreas overreacting to a high-carb meal. Anyway, it has been basically a good 36-hour fast. My numbers have been low. I'll come back and kind of wrap it up and share some final thoughts with you. Right now, I'm going to stop and eat something, which will be nice. I'm going to enjoy a day of eating. Normally, I wouldn't eat a breakfast. I'll just have a bulletproof coffee as my breakfast. But today, I'll have a real breakfast, a real lunch, and a real dinner. See you after a bit. Well, let's kind of review the scores that I got, and then I'll have some remarks that I put together. For the most part of the morning, my scores were in the upper 80s to low 90s, which I'm perfectly satisfied with. By 1 p.m., 86, 2 p.m., 88, 3 p.m., 84, just slight drop. But boy, at the 4 p.m. point, 4 in the afternoon, that is when we had the hiccup. And Charlie seemed to fail me because he gave me a 71. And it's not like I haven't done these 36-hour fasts before. I know where I should be at 3 and 4 in the afternoon. I should be in the low 90s or maybe the upper 80s. So I went to my old friend Mike the Meter and tested myself with him, the old-fashioned stick your finger and get a drop of blood kind of a meter. And he gave me a couple of different numbers, a 92 first and then an 84. And I'm like, wait a minute, Mike, you're failing me. Charlie, you're failing me. What in the world is going on? But I thought of something somebody left me a comment somebody left me under my video about the CGM. And they told me how that with this glucose meter, this Freestyle Libre, they've got a slot where you can put in a Precision Neo strip and test your glucose, and it kind of sets it that way. So I did that. I took one of the strips from Mike. Mike gave me permission, and I tested. I stuck it in here and did a normal test, and then it read an 86. So that seemed a whole lot more fitting with what I knew from previous fasts like this, and so it seemed to reset it. And that's the point of this little ridge here, is to test yourself with a normal glucose strip, one that will work with this, and the Precision Neo Freestyle will do that, and then it kind of calibrates the Freestyle Libre. So when I did it again with the scanning of the sensor with the Libre, then I got a more normal 86. So Charlie seemed to need an adjustment, and I call him Charlie, CGM, Charlie the CGM, Mike the meter. I think you get it. Anyway, from then on, my numbers got much more realistic again. 5 p.m. 87, 683, 781. You can see it going down, down, down. 881, 978. But by 9 p.m., the 78 was not unrealistic because I've had things like that, 78, 79 by late toward the evening. 10, a little bit on the low side, 72. 11, it went up to 80. And then this morning, Tuesday morning, 73 at 7 p.m. So all in all, I'm pretty satisfied, but we did have a hiccup, and we needed one of Mike's strips, testing strips, to use with Charlie so that we could get this thing calibrated right, because it seemed to kind of lose it when my blood sugar went down a bit too much or more than Charlie was comfortable with or used to or whatever. So all in all, I'm pretty satisfied. Charlie is not perfect. Let me say that loud and clear. Charlie is not perfect. Mike's not perfect. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Your mama's not perfect. Everything's imperfect in this world. Only God is perfect. So at any rate, if you're expecting perfection from a CGM, you're not going to get it. But I think it gets close enough to where you can discover trends. You can discover what food raises your glucose and what doesn't. Let me go over a few quick points. First, a warning, don't try to do this unless, number one, you're not taking insulin and you're not using diabetic meds. Because if you're taking insulin and diabetic meds and you do a 36-hour fast, your glucose could go dangerously low. You could get a hypo, you could even die. So just don't do it. You can talk to your doctor, and if he works something out with you, that's between you and him. But don't do it because Dennis said to do it, because Dennis is not saying to do it. If you're taking diabetic meds, if you're taking insulin, just stay away from a 36-hour fast. So there's the warning about that. Type 1s, not sure a type 1 would really even need this. But again, that's another story. Talk to your doctor. So the standard reply, if you're asking me about any of this, the idea of a 36-hour fast, is talk to your doctor. If you're taking no meds, you should still talk to your doctor, but you're a little bit freer to do a 36-hour fast as long as you keep testing your glucose. And if it goes too low, then start eating. If you feel terrible, start eating. If you feel like you're about to pass out, start eating. Eat something. So don't get too crazy with this fasting, or you could really do yourself some damage. But for people that can handle it, and I know by experience that I can, it works well.